There you go. Again, thank you everyone for being here for our ATAC webinar. And I will turn it over to Adam and get us started. Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. And it's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Adam Krass, and I'm an Assistive Technology Consultant based in Bergen County, New Jersey. And today we're going to talk about alternate pencils for struggling writers. And this is a topic that I've had the pleasure to learn about over the last, how many years? And it's a really great topic because we're talking about providing access to writing for everyone, and that's something I think is really important for people with disabilities of all ages. And today we're going to talk about the ideas behind alternate pencils, and we're going to be getting into a lot of examples. And as I always like to say, this is not my webinar, it's your webinar. So if you have questions or if there's something you don't understand, type it into the chat box. Mike and or Naomi will answer. And if they think it's something that we should discuss, they will let me know. And we'll also have time at the end for questions. So I'm going to share my screen. And we will get started. I provided the link for today's presentation to Naomi, and hopefully, and so she will be sending that link out to all of you so that you'll have a copy of it too. And all the links are in the presentation. And yes, today we're talking about alternate pencils. Here are some upcoming webinars. These two are sponsored also by ATAC. Tuesday, June 7th will be a roundtable discussion of speech therapists and augmented communication specialists talking about their favorite iPad apps. And we currently have 3 speech therapists that are participating. I'm looking for 2 more. Hopefully we're trying to get 5 speech therapists. So if you are a speech therapist that has experience using augmented communication apps and you want to talk about your favorite, please send me an email this week and we'll get you on the list. And on Tuesday, July 12th, will be Assistive Technology for supporting keyboarding. So it'll be kind of related to today's webinar, but we're going to be focusing on keyboard access. Also, next Tuesday, May 17th at 7 p.m., I'm doing a webinar that's co-sponsored by SPAN Parent Advocacy Network. And that's an introduction to reading and writing supports, assistive technology for literacy. So that's kind of a 101 webinar, introduction to reading and writing supports. And here's the registration link. And as you might know, but if you don't know, I'm going to give you the, let you know that today, the recording for today's webinar will be on ATAC's YouTube channel. Here's the link for it. Usually give it a day or so for it to be posted, but they also have pretty much all their other webinars archived there. So it's a great resource. Go in on, at your own schedule and go look at the recordings of all the other assistive technology webinars. So a little bit about myself. I'm an assistive technology consultant. I provide services to children and adults with disabilities, including evaluations, training for students, staff, and families, ongoing support, webinars and workshops, modifications and customizations. In person, I work in northern and central New Jersey and the New York City area. Remotely, I'll work with anyone, anywhere. And I am offering free 30-minute assistive technology consultations or sessions for any individual with a disability, provided by phone, Zoom, Meet, FaceTime, Duo, etc. If you would like to set that up, please send me an email or call me, and we can schedule a 30-minute assistive technology consultation. So assistive technology has two parts, the devices and the services. And this little picture here shows that, where's my pointer? Ah, here it is. So this little guy here shows that, no, I didn't want that. I wanted the spotlight. Undo. There we go. Spotlight. That goes away, doesn't it? Maybe not. Spotlight, spotlight. Ah, there we go. Whoops. I went too far. So the spotlight shows that the devices and services work together. You can't just have the devices without the services. You can't have the services without the devices. So if you're in a position to recommend devices, or you're discussing devices with an IEP team, et cetera, make sure the services are also part of the package. And here is the definition for assistive technology device from IDEA, and the definition of all of the things that are considered assistive technology services. And remember, just like a assistive tech, like an occupational therapy evaluation or a speech evaluation or a PT evaluation, assistive technology evaluations are also included. They can be part of the IEP process, and they can be requested by families, by IEP teams, by teachers. So if you're working with a student that needs an evaluation, that should be something that can be provided by the school district if it's needed. And assistive technology is important because it supports the least restrictive environment for learning, supports greater participation with peers, and as such, it also supports inclusion. It helps students access the general education curriculum, supports greater independence, and it helps students reach their educational goals. A nice way to work, a nice framework for helping you match technology to students is the SET framework. And always a good place to begin, the SET framework. All right, so we're going to jump in to our topic. And let's see if I can get this. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so alternate pencils. What are they? Why use alternate pencils? Sorry, I'm getting these controls out of the way. There we go. That's a little bit better. Sorry, having problems here. Okay. So alternate pencils fit in with the concept of universal design for learning, where the focus is what is the learning goal? What is the thing that you want to create, or what do you want the student to be able to demonstrate? And not so much on how the student's doing it. So in other words, if the task is writing, there are thousands of ways to create writing. And alternate pencils fits in very well with the idea of universal design for learning, where you find the method, the technique, the support that helps the student generate writing. And the goal is the end product. What is the writing they generated? Not the format it's in or how it's done. And this is also based on the idea that many educational experts believe that students should be writing on a daily basis. Writing is hard. I think in some ways it might be harder than reading. And schools spend a lot of time on reading, which is great. But I don't think we spend enough time on writing, especially with students with significant disabilities. And that's where alternate pencils really shines in helping students that have the most difficulty with writing find the tools that they can use. You want to find a way to provide access to all 26 letters. The readiness model is not one that works well with this idea of alternate pencils. In other words, some people think that a student needs to be ready before they can start writing, which means they might need to know all their letters, or they might need to already know their letter sounds. And the proponents of alternate pencil technique believe that the act of writing and the act of making mistakes and exploring and trying things out is part of the learning process. So they posit that it's not necessary for someone to be ready to write in order to use alternate pencils and to begin that process. And also this idea that there's a broader idea of what constitutes scribbling. We all know what scribbling is for typically developing kids. They, finger paint, or they're going to take a crayon or a marker or a pencil, and they're going to be making all kinds of crazy marks on paper or maybe on your walls. That's scribbling, and we encourage it because over time, the scribbling becomes more purposeful. It becomes less random, more controlled, and we shape kids' scribbling into writing letters. The same can be said for alternate pencils, except we're not necessarily always talking about using a writing utensil with your hands. It might be using a flip chart, or maybe you're using scanning, or you're using some sort of eye gaze frame. And you may be making lots of mistakes, but those mistakes are similar to a young child scribbling with a crayon on paper, because over time they can be shaped, you can model, you can correct, you can instruct. And the idea is that those seemingly random letters eventually will be shaped and progress towards spelling words and learning how to put the letters together to create words. So some indicators of need for alternate pencils include if you have students that have extreme difficulty with fine motor skills or handwriting skills, they have significant writing related learning disability, they have multiple disabilities, some combination of difficulty with motor, vision, learning, visual motor coordination, language memory, or other domains related to writing. And for students who have very limited access to daily writing practice and exploration. So what's the first step? You want to find a method that's easy or relatively easy for the individual. And there's a lot of different modalities or body parts that you're going to be looking at. Always start with hands and arms, because we're wired to use our hands as much as possible. But someone could also use their head or their mouth, eyes, voice, switches, excuse me, or any other way, even ways that they could indicate yes or no. So some people have developed a method for indicating yes or no. Maybe yes is they're moving the eyebrows up. Maybe no is looking down, or looking up is yes, looking down is no. That can also work within the alternate pencil method. Some different tools that you can consider are keyboards, eye gaze frames, flip charts, partner assisted scanning, switch scanning, different pointing devices, hand, head, feet, etc. High-tech eye gaze technology, voice recognition, and others. And also remember, many students that have difficulty or extreme difficulty with writing may also have a visual impairment of some kind. So if that's the case, make sure the materials are high contrast. Really important. For example, many students with cortical visual impairment also have extreme difficulty with writing and reading. So it's important to make sure the materials are large enough and they're high contrast, use black backgrounds, etc. And I'm kind of rushing through these, but we'll talk about these categories a little bit more in detail. Now, who developed this concept and why? Well, it all began with Karen Erickson and Gretchen Hanser when they worked at the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies at the University of North Carolina. I had the pleasure and the great opportunity to work with Gretchen for a number of years, supporting a student with significant physical learning and visual impairments. So a lot of the things that we talked about today, I learned directly from Gretchen, but she has developed a lot of materials on the topic, and we'll be talking about some of those materials a little bit later. And why did they develop it? Because they saw that many students with very significant disabilities did not and do not have access to daily writing practice and exploration. That was the impetus for developing the alternate pencils approach. Okay, so here's some different categories. These are low-tech ones, different writing tools, letter tiles, letter cards, letter blocks, flip books, ink stamps, plastic letters, word cards, magnetic letters and words, eye gaze boards, partner assisted scanning. Excuse me. Some high-tech categories are chunking, on-screen keyboards, where the alphabet's divided into sections, digital word banks, digital letter tiles, digital word tiles, voice recognition, on-screen keyboards, eye gaze control, head pointing technologies, switches and scanning, partner assisted scanning, and Morse code based systems. And by the way, for either of these lists, if you have ones that you want to add or would add to these lists, please feel free to put them into the chat, because there's always more ideas out there than you think there are. And by the way, this picture is like a smartphone or iPad on-screen keyboard that works by just dragging your finger over the letters. Some of you may have that on your smartphone. I always thought it was cool because you don't actually have to lift your finger up. You can just drag it. As long as you sort of pause on the letters you want, the keyboard figures it out. Okay, so here's some flip books. And let me get my, okay, so this one, whoops, keep doing it. This one is a flip book that you can make from instructions from this link. And they're also later on in the presentation. And it's a flip book that has the alphabet divided up into sections. And this is typically done with partner assisted scanning, where you're going to be on the first page. The teacher or the aide or helper is going to point to each letter and wait. And the student is going to indicate yes or no, or maybe they're just going to say yes when you get to the letter they want. And then you're going to write that letter down. And you're just going to keep working that way until you are finished with your words or sentences. There's also pictures for space, for doing different things, for ending. And the instructions are basically all pre-created. You're just going to print them out and put them together. Or you can buy word flip books. This particular one is from the Attainment Company, but there's lots of flip books where you have, in this case, you're creating CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, as well as other 3-letter words or maybe 2-letter words as well, by flipping the letter over. So you're not actually having to do any handwriting or typing, but you're flipping until you get to the letters you want. Eye gaze frames. Again, the one on the left here is one that is that you can make on your own. The directions are on this link, and they're also at the end of this presentation. Or if you don't like to do it yourself, you can go out and buy an eye gaze frame. This is called an eye talk from Enabling Devices. And you could put yes or no. You could put your letters similar to this layout if you want. And the way this works is, first you're going to look at the box that you want. So let's say I want to type the word hello. I'm going to look at this box so that the teacher knows that I'm working on this box. Then I want to look, if I want H, I'm going to look in the center location. So that says I want the first box and I want the center, top center letter, which would be H. And then you would write down H. If I wanted I would also look at this one. And then I would look over at this box, which means I want this group of letters, and then I want this letter within that. So it's a 2-step process. High-tech eye gaze devices are also another option. There's a bunch of companies that make eye gaze devices. Tobii Dynavox, Prenke Romic, eyegaze.com, Neuronode, Inclusive TLC. Some are computer-based, some are tablet-based, some are iPad-based, and some are dedicated devices. Now we're also, I also wanted to throw this in here, high contrast letters. You can make your own. Generally, it's agreed that high contrast materials should employ a black background. And the letters should be large, they should be heavy, and generally you should use either a bright color or a neon color, like your neon yellow, red, green, blue. The neon colors on black seem to be a good place to begin. And they should be nice and big with 0 background distractions. So that's why a nice black background with not a lot of stuff on it is a good way to go. And there's some that are pre-made. There's a Teachers Pay Teachers book that someone put together, or you can make your own. And here is an interesting keyboard. It's part of Communicator 5, and I'm going to show you how this one works. This could be done by either eye gaze or some sort of a digital pointing device, mouse, trackball, touch screen, etc. So let me just, whoops. And okay, let's move this up out of the way. All right, Control T. So this is communicator 5. This one's called the large keys. And the alphabet here is divided up into, and the punctuation is divided up into 4 buttons. So if I want to write the word my, I'm going to select this one. And then it expands and shows me those letters. In this case, I've got 8 in 8 squares. So I'm going to type M.
M.
And then it will play M. Let me make sure my sound is on. Okay, now in this case, it has word prediction, so that's going to help me.
My
And yes, I do want to say my name.
name is.
And now I'm going to spell it. I'm going to go to this box. I'm going to pick A.
A.
And now I'm going to go back to this box because I want D. And then D.
D.
Back here for A.
A.
And here for M.
M.
So, and again, this could be done with a touch screen. One of the advantages of breaking it up this way is it's a little less overwhelming. And you also get to see the letters in large format without a lot of letters all at the same time. There's other programs that provide something similar to this, but this was pre-made in Communicator 5, so I thought I would show it to you. Okay, now I wanted to demonstrate, well, you can also use switch scanning where you use a switch to step through your choices. One switch means you're doing row column scanning. 2 switches could be both controlled by the student, where one switch advances and the other switch selects, or you could do 2 switch partner assisted scanning. And partner assisted scanning is where the teacher operates the next switch and the student operates the select switch. So, and I'm going to demonstrate this with an iPad using Google Docs and some switches. So let's just move over to that. And let's enlarge this. And okay, so I've got an iPad and I've got, in this case, I've got the Hook Plus switch interface, and I've got 2 switches plugged into this. The yellow switch is the teacher switch for advancing. And let me just get over to the keyboard. All right, so now I'm on the keyboard. The student operates this any way that they can, if they can operate a switch. So that selects it. And let's say I want to say, I want to write the word how. So I'm going to go, I'm going to highlight the first row and wait to see if the student does anything. So I'm going to say first row Q through P. The student doesn't do anything. I go to the next row and I'm going to say A through L. And if the student wants that row, they're going to hit the switch. And then I'm going to say ASD and wait for them. F, G, H. If they hit the switch, that means they want that group. I'll say F and wait, G and wait, H, if that's the one they wanted. They're going to type that. Now on the iPad, you can also set it up so it'll speak the letter they type. I also have the background black. The text is bright green, and I tried to make it pretty large. And I also have word prediction. And if a student sees the word they want, I'm going to go through each one. I could read it. He, have, has, and how. And obviously I'm going a little faster than I would in real life, but I want to give the student adequate time to decide if that's the one they want. It's always important for the student to have the opportunity to decide if they want it. If they don't do anything, then you're going to assume that you're going to move on to the next choice. But for students with a lot of motor difficulties, but can operate one switch, two switch partner assisted scanning is a nice method. Okay, I also have a couple of different styluses for accessing a touch screen. And let me just try to see if I can. I'm just going to put these up to the camera. Can you see these items well enough?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So this is a stylus made by Shape Dad, and it basically it's little thin metal with rubber covering, and you can shape it so it basically holds onto your finger. I don't have to hold it, but it's an extension of a finger. You could bend this so it's got more of an angle, and I can use this to touch the touch screen. They also make another one that is also bendable, and I could, if I bend it the right way, bend it so it stays on my hand. This one you have to hold on to a little bit, but you could form this or use it like that if you want. This is the Faraday one, which is also flexible, and I could wrap this around my hand, and without having to hold it, I could use this for activating or touching a touch screen. This is a what's one? This one's active hands. So I could basically just put this on my hand like ring, and with an open hand, I could select things on a tablet or a phone with this. Then another one. This is custom made, custom designed by a person with a physical disability. She designed this for herself, and this is Click Speak Connect. And they have different size heads and different size handles. So this is also an iPad stylus. So there's a lot of iPad styluses out there to experiment with. There's also the one that's on this page, which actually straps around your hand. So you don't have to hold it at all, just but you do need the movement of your upper arm to position it where you want it to go. Here is a list of more alternative pencil resources. This is the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies page on alternate pencils. There's another page from the Edmonton, Canada Regional Learning Consortium. A lot of good information there. How to get started with alternate pencils, created by Gretchen Hanser, and a number of other resources for how to make your own flip charts. But if you go to this first link, you'll see all of these links as well. The Edmonton, Canada is its own page, but also includes some of the same links. Excuse me. Before we break for questions, I just want to let you know that I'm asking everyone to fill out a survey telling us what you thought of today's webinar. But I'm also offering anyone who fills out the survey a chance to be entered into a drawing for a $25 gift card. So if you fill out the form today and enter and write your email address at the bottom of the form, there's a box for it. Your email address will be entered into the drawing. And I promise no one else sees the email addresses. I'm the only one that sees them. And I really do have a gift card. I promise it's right here. See, here's the gift card. This is the actual gift card you will be sent. So whoever wins, I'll send you an email. I'll say you're the winner. You'll send me your mailing address or where you want it mailed. And in a couple of days, a $25 gift card will appear in your mailbox, your actual mailbox. And here's the link for the survey. Okay, and here's my contact information, email, phone, website, Twitter. Please let me know if you have further questions or if you have other ideas of things that you've used for alternate pencils. I always like to get people's opinion on what they use, what they like, what they've tried, what worked, what didn't work, etc. So I'd like to open up the floor, as it were, to questions. Feel free to turn on your microphone and speak to us as a group, or if you prefer to use the chat, that's fine too. Open up the chat window.
Adam, would you like me to read one out of the chat?
Sure.
Sure. In your scanning demo, were you using the native iPad keyboard or an add-on? I like the large number of predictive options.
Okay, that was the native iPad keyboard. So the only thing that wasn't on the iPad was the hook to user interface, but I was using all the iPad settings and the iPad native keyboard and the Google Docs app. So that was pretty low cost and pretty much out of the box, as much as you can be with switches, I think.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Bridget, for your question. Anybody else? Like Adam said, feel free, turn your mics on, come on camera. If that's preferable for you, we're all for it. And definitely get in on that survey and that gift card. I like holding the gift card up, Adam, in the webinar. It felt a bit like a hostage video with a proof of life kind of thing. It made me laugh. It made me smile over here. I liked it.
I'm trying to be as obvious as possible.
I like that. I appreciate it. Here's a question in the chat from Lisa. Is the divided keyboard only on Communicator 5?
I think it's in Communicator 4. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's also in Grid and a number of other communication devices. But if you're looking, if you have a particular application you're using, excuse me, just send me an email, and I'll see if there's a page set that that emulates that type of a layout.
Great. Here's another question from Kelly in the chat. Is there a keyboard extension for Chromebooks with a touchscreen that provides a swipe option like we have on our phones?
Ooh, there's got to be.
Yeah,
There's got to be. I'm gonna have to look that up on a Chromebook. Mikey, you're like Mr. Chromebook.
No, that just made me sit and think about it. It was, I don't know.
We're gonna have to research that one. If there isn't, there should be.
There should be, right? Can you swipe
with a touch screen? Yeah. Or it would also be cool if you could do it with the trackpad. Either way. All right. So you're giving me homework.
Yeah, me too. That's
Kelly.
A great question, Kelly. All right. I'm officially writing myself a note because I think that's a great question. Anybody else? Oh, Lauren, sorry, I didn't see your question. Lauren asks, do you know of any letter predictive keyboards?
Letter predictive keyboards. In other words, where it's showing you the next letter. I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Yeah,
where you select a letter and then the only letters that show up after that on the keyboard are the ones that could possibly be after that letter.
Yes. The Reach on-screen keyboard, which I believe is Windows.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Does that. They call it smart typing. It's kind of cool. So you type a letter and it will only highlight the letters that could grammatically follow that first letter, and it will gray out all the others. I think I'm wondering if there's something similar for Mac, maybe blanking on the name of it now. The same company that makes ProLoco has their key mouse keys. No, what's it called? All right, I'm blanking on it. But I know Reach will work on a Windows computer. I haven't seen anything like that on an iPad or a tablet or a Chromebook, but it doesn't mean someone hasn't come up with it yet.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Those are great questions. So much work for us to do after we're done. Awesome. Julia asks in the chat, how are you describing alternate pencils to educators or family members? This term is confusing to some that I have talked with recently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the simplest way to put it is if you have difficulty writing with a pencil or something like it, what are all the different ways that you can generate writing? And I think showing people low-tech examples of like using blocks or using plastic letters as your writing method is a nice way to explain it, because I think people get that, very quickly. If they say, well, you're not going to use a pencil, you're not going to use a marker, you might not even hold anything in your hands, but if you have blocks or plastic letters that you can arrange somehow, or you can point to letters with a mouse stick, head pointer, or something else like that. That's usually how I explain it, but yeah, it can be confusing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, good question. Excellent question. Thank you so much, everybody. Those great questions. Joey says, do you know of any math apps for students that have difficulties with writing?
Well, I forgot to show the ABC Magnetic ABC app. It has letters, but it also has rows of numbers. So you could potentially, if you have some sort of way to point, you can do that too. And on the example that we were just working on, you can have numbers on your keyboard as well. So you could use switch scanning. You could use have a number layout for an eye gaze board, or number layout for a flip chart. So I believe you could adapt many of the methods using numbers instead of letters. But math apps, I would look at like Mod Math is a nice general purpose. If you can make the keyboard, the numeric keypad large enough, that could work.
That's a good one.
I know I was rambling a little bit there. Sorry.
I like a good ramble every once in a while. There's the link in the chat for Mod Math also, which is a great tool. Any last thoughts before we wrap everybody up? Yeah, we have a comment come through in the chat about Equatio.
Equatio,
is
yes.
a nice tool to look at as well for math, and even tools like OneNote could support math in some of those ways as well. So definitely check those tools out.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Equatio is a good one. I mean, the voice recognition feature in Equatio is quite good.
Yeah. And also the formula, the predictive part of the formulas where you start typing a formula and it gives you some choices.
Yeah.
I like that
is
too.
great.
Yeah.
That is great.
Excellent. All right, last calls. We kept you guys longer than we thought we would, but that's a good thing. It was great questions. We appreciate everybody hanging out to the end. Excellent. Thank you so much. Like Adam said, we'll put this recording up on our YouTube channel probably later today or tomorrow. So it'll be there with the others, and hopefully you'll join us for a future webinar. Adam, thank you very much. As always, awesome.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Too.